My name's John Newling. I have an exhibition at Nottingham Contemporary that runs from January the 26th to April the 7th. The main themes in this particular exhibition is an ecology of values. It's taking a number of different modes of expression from performance work, sculptures, installations, drawings, and one brand new kind of work built for the space, really. I think we'll have drawings from the early 70s right through to a number of works from this year. The window will have two grow tents in it that are open, hydroponically growing Moringa oleifera trees that are thought to be the world's most generous trees in terms of human beings and in terms of nutriment and care and value for us as a plant species. The boxes themselves in the middle of winter and early to mid-summer inside of those spaces. So there will be times at night when the gallery is really brightly lit in the windows. But I first came across hydroponics in looking at technologies, researches from NASA. I was fascinated by the fact that they were looking outside of the Earth. It seemed to me one route of studying nature. It's human beings trying to understand what plants ideally need. And in order to do that, you've got to study them. So some science comes into that and all sorts of things. But I was also fascinated in the fact that you could have a space inside a space that had a completely different seasonal frame or climatic frame. With what's going to happen to the world, we need to really, really look carefully at how we grow things, how we can sustain food in places that will become unsustainable. But I also think it's part and parcel of really trying to understand our connections with the natural. I was invited to do a project in Chatham in Kent. Discovered this amazing Maris Celeste of a church, and I decided I wanted to bring something living into the church and to look at what I think is probably pre-church, really. All churches, I believe, are based on our relationship to the natural. They're about seasons, and one can trace all of that. I wanted to grow a vineyard inside the church. That's when I first used hydroponics, and we had the whole church the aisle of the church was a big church, had 31 Pinot Noir vines growing in it, with the idea of eventually making wine from it, and half of that wine being used in a service. I made the world's first and only, as far as I know, wine that has no provenance, and that's really important. It doesn't come from anywhere. First seeds were sown in August 2011 of Jersey kale, better known really as walking stick cabbages. The idea of growing support was simply to make a work where there was a human interaction with it, where the plant itself provided a material that was kind of useful towards the end, particularly in supporting our own weight, our bodies, and associated with older age as well. So I was looking really at three major transitions, really. The first transition would be from the seed to the fully grown walking stick cabbage, to harvesting them and exhibiting them, so that there's a kind of other mode coming in there of it becomes art momentarily. And then towards the end of the exhibition, making the walking stick cabbages into walking sticks in the gallery as a live event, and then giving the walking sticks away. And it's kind of a reflection really of how seeds are disseminated, how we disseminate, how we look at ecologies, really. So the whole business of contemporary art is one of care, really. It's care for me. It's caring about society. It's caring about what one sees, what one thinks, and trying to express those to the widest possible public. It was a conscious thought to set this whole thing up really 18 months ago, with the view that whatever the walking sticks produced, i.e. leaves, leaf stems, and then the walking sticks themselves, that I would use that as the material to express ideas of value. So hence the suite of drawing that looks at eclipsing between gold and leaf and gilded leaves, the clockworks that are about time, obviously, and about slow time, the growing of time, a different kind of time frame. The transformation really of leaves into the equivalent of £20 notes. And I am really, really fascinated in the history of money. And not necessarily capital, but the evolution of money is really the evolution of our own society. From electum to electric money, from money that is weighed through its value, i.e. a gold coin, if it's valued at £1, but the gold in it is actually worth £1.50, then whole civilizations collapse because of that. And now we have electric money, and we use credit cards and etc., etc. But there is an incredibly rich history, a social parallel history in the evolution of money. And so to use a cabbage leaf and to cut it into the exact dimension and to have the exact weight of a £20 note was exciting. and so the work evolved from that. The completion is giving away the sticks at the end of the show at Nottingham Contemporary. That carries on in other people's experiences, because they will remember that installation when they use the stick occasionally. So there's a kind of interest I have there in how contextually myths are virally propagated. And I'm interested in how that works in public space, really. A myth is the gap between the object and the expression of that object. And art is an object, and people express it, and the gap between that transition between the expression of that object and the object itself is where the mythical language evolves. I did a piece for Locus Plus called Skeleton. Skeleton material being the material that's left when Eucharist wafers have been cut. Whilst doing that, I got to see the place where the nuns cut the wafers. So the realization that a Eucharist wafer shared the same diameter as a 2p coin, which of course commonly is the wishing coin, Skeisel is what's left when 2p coins are cut out of copper. So I became absolutely fascinated with this coin, which was of weight, of a kind of meaning, almost transubstantive, in the sense that a Eucharist wafer is meant to be transubstantive. I felt a 2p coin was transubstantive in as much as it was part of a negotiation, it was part of a transaction, it was part of our desires and wishes. People automatically throw them into water, which is very, very ancient. You throw things into still water to make the water move, to stop it generating all the various viruses, things that kill you. I made a number of coin wishing machines. These were automatic machines that threw coins into wells, and I was interested in that process. And one day I went into the bank. The woman behind the till said that they were light, that they were less than £1. And I said, no, I've never, you provided them to me, but I didn't use these. I'm just cashing them in. And she said, oh, it must be the dirt. That the human touch, stuff from our pockets, our purses, our skin, actually adds value to the coin, because the coins are calibrated through weight. So the 2p coin as an aperture has been the aperture between the 2p coin and the skeleton material, the absence of a Eucharist wafer. Cutting a 2p coin hole in a walking stick cabbage leaf and then putting gold behind that was really thrilling. And when I say it, it sounds so stupid, but actually it was very thrilling for me to do, to see that combination happening. But I was interested in the value and the size of a £20 note in a cabbage leaf. I then weighed the single £20 size cabbage leaf and a £20 note, and I weighed them very accurately, and they were identical. So when I put a stack of £1,000 worth of cabbage leaves together, 50 of them. They weighed also identical to £1,000 worth of £20 notes that were purchased from the bank. Knowing and struggling to articulate really value beyond capital, I'd make drawings to investigate how things grew, how things worked. They felt like algorithms. I was really following a sequence of geometric configurations and finding wonderful shapes and patterns that I was then beginning to see echoed in the natural world. So another abiding theme is place and site and context, which is where the public works have come in. All institutions in the end begin to value only their own institutional rules and forget about the subject.